Good morning. Today is Thursday, July 23rd, 2020. Back near the beginning of the book of Shmos, when God first appeared to Moshe and told Moshe that he's heard the cries of the Jewish people and he wants to give Moshe a job. Hashem says to Moshe, V'ata l'cha, and now I want you to go. V'ashlachacha el Paro, I'm sending you as my messenger to Paro. V'hotzeis ami b'nei Yisrael mimitzrayim, and you will be the one to take my nation, the Jewish people, out of Egypt, and of course to lead them to Israel. As you remember from that passage, Moshe demurs for several different reasons, until finally Moshe says to Hashem, Vayomer Moshe el Hashem, Moshe says to God, Be Hashem, please God, Lo ish dvarim anochi, I'm not a man of words. Gam mitmol, gam mishulshom, not from yesterday, not from the day before. Gam meyaz dabercha el avdecha, from the time that you first started speaking to me, ki chavad peh uchvad lashon anochi, I have difficulty to speak and difficulty finding the right language. Please don't send me. So how is it that in our Parsha, which begins the 5th book of the Torah, our Parsha begins with the following words: Eile hadvarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael. These are the words that Moshe spoke to the entire Jewish people. And in fact, not only our Parsha of Parshas Dvarim, but the entire Sefer, the entire book of Dvarim, of Deuteronomy, almost all of it is speeches that Moshe delivered to the entire Jewish people in the days before his death. So how do we go from Lo ish dvarim anochi, I'm not a man of words, to Eile hadvarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael, to Moshe speaking non-stop for days on end? The Medrash suggests the following answer. The Medrash says that the difference is who the audience was. In the beginning of the book of Shmos, Moshe is speaking to God. Speaking to God is such an overwhelming experience. We can't even imagine what that is like. So, speaking to God, Moshe says, Lo ish dvarim anochi, I'm not able to speak so well. But when it comes to speaking to the Jewish people, then Eile hadvarim asher dibar Moshe, Moshe is able to speak to the Jewish people. So, it is not an intrinsic disability, it is depending on the audience. Speaking to Moshe, he was nervous and embarrassed and felt inadequate, but speaking to people, he was okay. All right, that's the answer that the Midrash gives, but simply based on the simple reading of the text, that answer is very hard to understand, because if we go back to the beginning of Shmos, when Moshe says, Lo ish dvarim anochi, I am not a man of words, so God responds. God says, okay, Vayomer, Halo Aharon achicha halevi yadati ki daber yidaberhu. But Aharon, your brother, I know, God says, that he is able to speak. So if you're telling me that you can't speak, I'll send Aharon with you, and Aharon will do the speaking. And, in fact, that is what happens. Again, near the beginning of Shemos, when Moshe goes back to Egypt, after having met with God and received this mission from God at the burning bush, the Torah says, Vayelech Moshe v'Aharon. Moshe and Aharon went as soon as they returned from Egypt, as soon as Moshe returned to Egypt, Vayasfu es kol ziknei b'nei Yisrael, and Moshe gathered together all of the elders of the Jewish people. Vayidaber Aharon es kol hadvarim, And Aaron spoke all the words, Asher Diber Hashem El Moshe, that God spoke to Moshe. So it does seem from the text of the Torah that it really was an issue of Moshe not being able to speak, whether it was a physical impediment or it was an emotional impediment or some other type of impediment. But clearly, it's not a difference between speaking to God and speaking to man. The plan was that he would have Aaron to speak on his behalf. So our question returns, how is it that Moshe goes from being a person who is not able to speak to, in our Parsha, a person who speaks nonstop? So a number of commentators give the following answer, and that is, what changed is Moshe was given a task and a mission by God. And when we have a task and a mission and a purpose and a goal, we can overcome almost any difficulty. Within each of us, there is hidden, powerful potential. And we may not even be aware of it. Usually we're not aware of it. But it was once Moshe had this mission that he was able to find reserves of effort and strength within himself that he did not know that he had. Viktor Frankl famously said, "He who has a why to live can bear with almost any how." When we live with a sense of mission, purpose, when we have a goal, we can overcome almost anything that would have seemed to us insurmountable without that sense of driven mission. There's so many examples of a person who either objectively or subjectively lacks capability. But once there's a mission, they grow into that ability, surprising themselves and everyone who knows them. Reading the opening of our Parsha, Ele hadvarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael. These are the words that Moshe spoke to the entire Jewish people. And seeing the transformation in Moshe as a result of his sense of mission. And remember, in our Parsha, Moshe feels the pressure because he knows that his life is coming to an end. He knows that he only has a few days left, and he knows that he has messages that he needs to impart to the Jewish people, not only for those who are listening, but are still being studied by us today. And he has this sense of mission and purpose and a specific goal of what he has to accomplish in a very short amount of time. And it's that reason that he is able to overcome the inability that he had all those years. When we read these words, we should remind ourselves and we should be inspired that every one of us has strengths and abilities beyond what we can even imagine. Jodi Picoult wrote in one of her novels, "Who we are isn't so much about what we do, but rather what we're capable of when we least expect it." My friends, I want to wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing all of you soon in person.